My name is John Jones III, and I'm on staff with BOSS, Building Opportunities for Self-Sufficiency, where I serve as a director of violence interruption and prevention programs. As someone that's formerly incarcerated, there's many things that I've learned over the years that they don't always teach us in the book. And I want to talk about some of those things today. I want to be able to help my people as we come home. What does it mean to really reintegrate to society, especially if we was never included to begin with? But it starts with an understanding of personal agency and transformation. How do we overcome systemic and interpersonal violence? The first question is, who am I? It's like a weird question, right? But when you think about this, when you're born, you don't have your own identity. Your name is given to you. You're assigned a race and a gender. But what does that really mean? Let's get into it. I want to use an example from the Bible. This is not for religious purposes, but for teaching purposes, because it's one of the most widely recognized books. Now, Jesus asked his disciples a simple question. This is when he was on his mission, performing miracles, healing the sick, raising the dead. Pay attention to this. This is what he asked. Who do others thought he was? See, it starts there. Our identity, more often than not, is really created by people outside of us. So who they thought he was? They was given different names, John the Baptist, Elijah. You're always gonna have people who want to define who you are. For me, I was given the name John Jones III at birth. I was told I was black. I was told I was male. I couldn't talk. I couldn't say anything about who I was. Was I the kid in grade school, in elementary school, that skipped from the first to the third grade? I was reading by age 4. They told me I was smart. By the time I got to 6th grade, I won every academic achievement in my school, including being the spelling champ. Feels good, right? By the time I got to middle school, East Oakland was being changed because of the crack epidemic. At the age of 12, that was the first time I was shot at in my life. Close blank range, and it had an impact on me. And as a result, I began to drop out of school because I understood that this world I was living in was really a fake world. It wasn't a real one. Who am I? Was I that guy that at 16 was shot as an adult and was given a sentence of 26 years to life on a plea deal to go to the California Youth Authority? Who am I? Am I CYA number 65275? I thought I was just a smart kid a few years ago. Or was I this guy standing here, DOC prison number 323372 in Washington State? Who am I? Am I this person? Maybe I'm all of them. But pay attention to the next question, because this is where it gets real. Jesus asked his disciples a follow-up question. Who do you think that I am? See, the world is going to have their thoughts and their opinions, but really it becomes a matter of our circle, the people who are closest to us. Who do they think we are? Most importantly, who do you think you are? Because again, even those close to us, I've heard situations where, you hear parents tell their kids, you're just like your no good daddy. You're just like this person. You'll never amount to nothing. We believe that. We shouldn't, but we do. But really, who do you think you are? Who am I? I'm many things. I am John Jones III. I am a father. I am a leader. But most importantly, I am an inspiration. On this roadmap to overcoming systemic violence, it starts with personal agency. And when I use that term personal agency, let me be clear what that means. We have to have the ability to advocate on behalf of our best interests. Society is not designed to do so. In fact, it's designed to do the opposite. It starts with having what I call a personal constitution. Everyone should have a set of bylaws that regulate your code of conduct. Because if we keep it all the way real, how we end up on a path to incarceration is by simply not following the rules or breaking rules, doing what other people do. Gotta have discipline, because if you want to make it in life, you gotta create a structure. A lack of structure and foundation, I promise you, will not allow us to prosper and succeed. The things that we do to survive cannot be the same things that we do to thrive. In order to thrive, we have to develop principles. We got to develop that internal discipline. We have to understand what our boundaries and balance are. What are our limitations? Whatever I'm doing, if I'm thinking it, if I'm speaking it, if I'm acting it, Is it going to get me closer to my goals and my dream and my vision, or is it going to get me further away from the same things? Accountability. Woo, this is a loaded word. A lot of times people, especially those of us who have that experience of dealing with the system, right, we get judged unfairly. So then it's hard, it's difficult for us to be willing to hold ourselves accountable. Sometimes when we hear that word accountability, what we're really hearing is being penalized. What we're hearing is, I'm not good enough, I'm not bright enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not brave enough. That is not what accountability means. Because first of all, we should always be willing to understand, and we all should agree that no one is perfect. In fact, to err is to be human. We're going to make mistakes. And if we can accept the fact that we're going to make mistakes, then it's very important for us to accept that as these mistakes are being made, when it's being brought to our attention, view that as not harmful or penalizing us, but view that as an opportunity for correction, an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for development. I practice protocols all the time. That's what I preach. What I mean by protocols, they're meant to protect and not punish. View protocols as a system, a process, like a code of conduct that's going to help us. And to really make this make sense, even on the street level, when you're in that game, there was protocols, right? One is no snitching. So if we can understand that no matter what we are part of, there's always rules, there's always a protocol, then understand that it's not meant to punish. It's really meant to protect. Again, going back to the example of snitching, it's the reason why we were taught that, or at least we should have. We need to teach that a little bit more nowadays. It's because it's designed to protect us from retaliation. Embrace protocols. Don't view that as limiting who you are, but view that as an opportunity to enhance both who you are as well as what it is you're looking to achieve. So I gave an example of really what I call mental maintenance methods. What is a mental maintenance method, you might ask yourself? Well, let's start with the brain. As you think in your heart, that's who you are. What I mean by that? They got this saying, right? People say, well, whoever I think I am, I want you to embrace who I think I am. Whoever you think you are, it starts there. Who are you? What are you? Are you a person? Do you see yourself as a father? Do you see yourself as a gangster? Do you see yourself as the most cold-hearted killer that ever existed? Whatever you think of yourself is going to influence the way that you think, not just about yourself, but also about the world around you. What is this self-talk that we're constantly feeding to ourselves? See, it's interesting when people talk about being triggered. Let's really break that down, what that really means and what is really happening. Someone can come to you and tell you you are nothing. How you respond to that to a large degree is really based on what you've already been telling yourself. And it's an interesting concept because it's called energy, and people resonate. The outside energy is going to resonate with your inside energy. If you came to me 10 years ago and told me I was nothing, I would ask you, do them hands still work? Because mine do. The person I am today, I would laugh. It would be no impact on me because that's about you. Whatever you're saying, if it's something negative, it don't resonate with me because that's not the energy I carry inside myself today. It is very crucial for us to understand that our brain is not self-correcting. It's interesting, a lot of times there's this assumption that people are supposed to know right from wrong. You knew what you did was wrong. That's not how the brain works. Think of the brain as a blank canvas, and whatever's being painted on that becomes that picture. It becomes your brain. Whatever you put inside that becomes how you think. There was not a part of our brain that's going to say, this is not right. This needs to be different. We have to develop those skill sets. Think of a GPS, for example. So when you got your GPS, first of all, the GPS provides direction on where you want to go, right? You simply put the address in. Hey, if I want to come to work, the Wellness, Empowerment, and Resiliency Campus, I put that in there, and it's going to give me a roadmap. It's going to direct me which streets I should take. But check this out. A GPS also will let you know the fastest way. It will also give you alternate routes. A GPS system will also let you know in advance if you're dealing with traffic. Right? They use a color code, right? When it's blue, it's typically good. If it's red, that means it's traffic. If it's yellow, it's in the middle. My point is a GPS gives you options. It gives you the ability to get to where you want to go the best way, the fastest way, while also alerting you to any obstacles in your way. Our brain does not work that way. I always share this. I've been arrested, y'all, 25 times. I've served a total of 14 years. You would think after the first time someone's been in jail, this ain't for me. I don't want to be wearing the same underwear somebody wore yesterday. I don't want nobody telling me when I can use the bathroom, when I can use the phone. You would think my brain would have told me that. It didn't. It actually did the opposite. Once you get used to something, the process of normalizing something, it gets to a point to where, hey, I can deal with this. Just really think about that. Is our brain self-correcting? No, they're not. So how do we deal with that? We must retrain and maintain our mental approaches and processes. What do I mean by retrain? First, we have to unlearn the negative things that got us to where we were. We got to unpack that and unlearn it in order to even be in a position to learn something different. It's kind of interesting when we talk about reading. Think about it like music, your TV shows, movies. We tend to gravitate to things we already like. It's the same thing with learning. A lot of people don't open themselves up to learning something new. We open ourselves up, or really we limit ourselves to what we already know and what we already like. We have to put the work in to retrain the way that our mind works. Because if you think about that, we have to train ourselves to be part of the game. Nobody is born evil. Nobody's born criminal. These things are learned. So just as we learned those things, how to hustle, how to take shortcuts, we have to unlearn that. Because when I say unlearn, I'm really talking about habits. And it starts mentally. Retrain and then maintain. Think about your car. You don't just get in your car and go every day, days, weeks, months, and years. Your car requires routine maintenance, right? It's the reason why they tell you get an oil change every 90 days. It's the reason why they even put them little lights in your car to let you know if you need more air for your tire. You got low air pressure, right? You need gas. That's maintenance. So the same way that we provide maintenance to our vehicles, we must provide that same amount of maintenance to our mental faculties. Do not be conformed to the patterns of this world. What do I mean by that? Again, we're birds of a feather. We tend to adopt the same values and mindsets of those in our circle. That's the only way we were able to do what we do. If you really think about that, some things ain't gonna work if you're not on the same page. So typically our peer groups, our social networks, is really a reflection of who we are. But if we want to succeed, if we want to become transformed, then we can no longer abide by that same mindset. And I know that's very difficult because anything that we have done for quite some time becomes normalized. And when I say normalized, what I mean by that is we're not even giving it a second thought. How many of us, for example, how many times a day do you really think about the fact that your heart is beating? Do you like, oh my God, I don't remember last time my heart beat. We don't think about that because it's been doing it for so long, it becomes normalized. The only time we even think about it is if we experience a pain or a challenge. Do not be conformed to the things that got you in a position that you ultimately did not want to be in. To come out of that, we have to be transformed. That word literally means changing who you are, changing what you do. But I'm gonna back up real quick. When I say change who you are is good. Change what you do. Because part of who we are is the labels. Sometimes those labels are given to us externally by other people. Sometimes we put them labels on ourselves. Transform yourself by the vision that you have for you. And that will get you closer to your goals and your vision. And the key word, renewing. That's constant. It's present. It's not a one-time thing. It don't say renew. You do it one time. We have to do that constantly, consistently. Just as we have to eat consistently. You don't eat one meal and then you good until next year, right? We don't brush our teeth one time and say, I'm good for the month. At least I hope not. But the point is, do it constantly, do it consistently. And then that becomes a habit. And that in turn becomes normalized. Here's the world. There's so much going on in the world. If you think about Hollywood, if you think about movies, TV shows in particular, it's the reason why they call it a program, because it's programming the way that we think. It's programming the way that we see the world and we see ourselves inside of this world. The world is created to bring us down. We have to understand that. And the world can consist of many things. It certainly consists of systems and policies, but it also consists of people. Be very judicious, be very wise, pay attention to who you choose to pay attention to. I'm gonna say that again. Pay attention to who you choose to pay attention to. Be very wise with the feedback that you receive, because all criticism is not constructive. The purpose of feedback is to allow you to understand something that's going to help you get closer to your goal. Feedback is never designed to tear you down. Now, we find ourselves home, we're trying to do something different. I got a job now. Okay, this is new for me. This is what happens sometimes. It's called the imposter syndrome. What I mean by that? Well, now I'm taking on this new identity. I'm doing something different, but sometimes I might not feel comfortable. I remember when I started as an activist, I wasn't even employed yet. I got out of prison in 2012 and started getting involved a year later because I began to understand that there were systems, policies, and processes designed to prevent someone like me from doing what they say we all should be doing, and that's the right thing. However, as I was getting involved, I felt uncomfortable. I was like, well, who am I? I'm formerly incarcerated. I don't have these letters in front of my name or behind my name. I mean, I don't have no college degree. Who am I to speak to injustice? What qualifies me? This is something that we deal with, but it's not a good thing. Sometimes part of that imposter syndrome is a fear of success. Sometimes we are afraid to try to do something different. Sometimes we are afraid to chase our dreams because we fear, not the failure. It's not the failure that we fear, but it's the success. Why is that? Again, think about it. What negative self-talk is running through our brains every day? What feedback are we following and paying attention to? Why am I afraid to operate at my highest self? What is stopping that? We have to do a deep dive on that. There's this saying in the Bible, a prophet has no honor in their hometown. What does this mean? No matter what you try to do in your life, there will always be somebody from your past. Oh, that ain't nobody. I remember he used to steal bites from Food King. There's always somebody like that. It is hard sometimes to rise up in the same environment you come from because the people we left behind when we got locked up were still doing the same things. When I got out, the people who I rode with thought I was gonna come home and be on the same mindset. I'm like, no, because at that time I was a father of two with 2 strikes. I'm not gonna spend the rest of my life in prison. So it was weird to them. Oh man, you're doing that weird stuff. What you going to City Hall for? It ain't gonna work. You ain't gonna change nothing. You'll be back. You understand what I'm saying? People closest to you are sometimes the greatest source of harm in relationship to who we are and where we're trying to go. But here's the most important question. If you feel like you are not a change agent, if you feel like you should not be a part of this process, this revolution, that's what we're doing here, y'all. This is revolution when we talk about liberation. If you don't feel or think or believe that you are that person, then ask yourself, why not? Why not you? We're all uniquely created and suited to play a role in this movement for liberation. There is no big me or big I, little you. It's just like the human body, right? The eye cannot tell the ear, we don't need you, because the eyes were not created to hear. You feel what I'm saying? Everyone plays a part, a role, whether you are an elbow or a kneecap. Don't view yourself as less than. You are much needed for this movement. Now, as we begin this process, right, we start with self. Who am I? Who do I want to be, right? Number 2, how do I correct my thinking? How do I adopt and change my thinking that's going to allow me to get closer to my dream? And as I begin doing that, then I grow into a space where I grow comfortable with me and I embrace who I am. I am not an imposter. I'm the real deal. What is next? It's our network. The people you surround yourselves with. That is very important. As your life changes, so will your circle. All human beings are social creatures. What that means is we were born with this innate need for a family unit. What society calls a gang is really an extended family unit. We talk about that in East Oakland a whole lot, right? That's my bruh, that's my cousin. We use these terms of endearment because that's what it means. And especially for Black people and melanated people, we're tribal people. We understand the concept of a village. What village are we a part of? Because sometimes in your growth, you will find your circle changing, not because you don't want to deal with people, but the things that you do. If I know I got a job interview at Wednesday, 8 a.m., then I can't be doing Taco Tuesday, closing the bar down at 2 a.m. prior. Sometimes when you do different things, the people in your world will change. And I'm here to let you know that it's totally okay because it's supposed to. Here is some advice I give people. Never be neither the smartest person or the most resourced person in your circle. Let me say that again. Never be the smartest person or the most resourced person in your circle. Why do I say that? I'm gonna give you an example. When I was locked up, when I was hitting that iron, I was working out with people who lifted way more than me because they were pushing me to grow. If he was hitting 3 plates, that's 315 pounds, I'm over here struggling with 1, guess what? I am being motivated because I see where this person is at. You hear what I'm saying? I'm seeing what they're doing. So that's pushing me to get there. If you find yourself in a space to where in your circle, there's no one you can go to for support, you are in the wrong circle, my friend. And I'm not just talking about a transactional relationship. What I mean by that is, oh, I'm only with you because I can get something from you. But I promise you, for example, again, when I came home, being a father of 2 kids, and I knew I wanted to be a father, it was important for me to connect with other fathers because it's not just the conversation. It's the ability to watch in real time the habits that allow these other men who were fathers. When I'm like, hey, I want to go hang out. No, I can't. I got to go to my kid's game. That put me in a position to understand that's what a father is. It ain't just providing a roof over their head and clothes on their back and food on the table. Because to keep it all the way real, juvenile hall will do that. It's about that time, that quality time, creating those memories that will allow that child to thrive. Success is 90% preparation. Let me break that down, y'all. A lot of times people want things. It's interesting. People say, I want a job, but I'm not taking minimum wage. I want to get paid $50 an hour. What did you do to deserve that? What work did you put in? Don't wait till the opportunity comes, then you want to put the work in. You put the work in. When I say put the work in, I'm not talking about when people are around. How do you spend your time when you're by yourself? You have to constantly put the work in, day out. When you do that, 10% of this is the availability. And again, a huge part of the availability is the circle you keep. If you hang with people who can't give you a job lead, then how do you expect to get a job? What I've learned was I was going to all the city council meetings. I was going to these nonprofit meetings. I was placing myself in a position to have folks who have the opportunity to help me and my children do so. And that's literally what happened. The first job I got, I was homeless unemployed for 18 months. First job I got, I was at Burger King, 13th and Broadway. A security guard with no flashlight, no whistle, no nothing. I had to buy the little shirt that said security. I'm 40 years old, making $10 an hour. People coming by, calling me a loser. This is the best you can do? I said, well, you should thank God that I'm working here because I could be outside waiting for you to come out and hit you upside your head. You understand what I'm saying? Let's have some real talk here. But what I mean by success, the preparation part, I didn't just do security stuff. I learned a long time ago the importance of you don't work the job you have, work the job you want. Let me say that again. Somebody may have missed that. You don't work the job you have, you work the job you want. What does that mean? Here's an example. I learned how to do the cashier. I'm bussing tables. I was power washing the sidewalks. I'm wiping the windows outside. People used to walk by. Hey, you security. Why are you doing this? That ain't your job. You are right. But guess what? This is not the job I want. I am learning work ethics. I'm placing myself in a position to be an important part of this institution. So what ended up happening? Eventually, that Burger King got bought out by someone else. The new owner said, we no longer need security here. I think that's a waste of resources. But however, John, come here. I've been watching you over these last few months, all the work you've been putting in. Not only will I keep you, I'm going to promote you. You understand what I'm saying? Put the work in. We got to get rid of that bare minimum mentality. I see it a lot. I'm going to do just enough to get by. I promise you, you will get back what you put in. That preparation is putting that work in. And don't always think of it as, oh, I'm doing this for free. See, for 2 years, I was involved in the nonprofit world. I didn't get a check, but guess what? I was paying myself. I always joke about this. People literally spend money to go to a college, a university, just to get a piece of paper stating they're qualified to do this job. On top of that, they're saddled with student loan debts. Me, I said I was doing OJT, on the job training. I was learning the ins and outs. It didn't matter what someone wanted me to do. Sometimes they just wanted me to speak for 2 minutes, just share your story. I wanted to know about the whole program, the whole campaign. I spent time studying these things on my free time. I was paying myself. You follow what I'm saying? Just like when I was locked up, there was 2 places I always got a job at. The kitchen, because I wanted to eat physically, and then the library, because I wanted to eat mentally. And my joke is, taxpayers paid me to get an education. I didn't have the stress or the pressures of being graded on a final exam. Because when you're in prison, you have access to the entire statewide library. I was putting the work in before I came home. You follow what I'm saying? Preparation, prepare yourself. Don't wait, like they say, stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. Here's another one. This is very true in politics, but I promise you it's true in your personal life as well. Get out of the mindset. There's no such thing as permanent enemies and permanent friends. It's about a matter of whether or not you are aligned on self-interest. See, sometimes we might think somebody a friend because we got something in common or we're both going after something. But is that really a friend? Sometimes we think someone is an enemy and they're not even an enemy. What makes them an enemy? Because somebody came to us and said something about that person or said they said something about us? Never burn bridges. Same thing when you have a job. If you get a better paying job, if it's one that's more suited to your needs, that's fine. Never burn bridges, because you never know. When we start talking about power, when people start saying, oh, this person is hating on me, let me be very clear. There's a difference between a hater and an enemy. A hater don't have power. Only thing a hater can do is talk. That's it. Because if they have the power, they wouldn't be talking. They'll be doing it. But an enemy has the power to destroy your dreams. And there's many people who have not got what they wanted because they opened their mouth speaking on people and didn't even know that they said something bad about the wrong person who had the power to close that door. Again, Constitution. No permanent friends, no permanent enemies, and get out of your feelings. It's not just about how we feel, because you got to go deeper. If I'm feeling this way, why? Is it about them or is it about me? A lot of times we make decisions based on emotionality. You make an emotional decision. We see this a lot in gun violence. People get triggered. They feel some kind of way. Traffic stuff. You mad because the light turned green and the person in front of you stood there for 3 seconds. So now you want to get mad, yell, throw things at them, curse at them. We got to get our feelings, y'all. That's not going to help us. And I put this here because this quote really came from Henry Kissinger. America has no permanent friends or enemies, only interests. I believe that we should also adopt a business-minded perspective. It's like Jay-Z said it. He said, I'm not a businessman, comma, I'm a business, comma, man. I began to view myself as a business, and that's how I operate. My brand is John Jones III. Anything I say, anything I do, anything I post, I promise you, is going to be for the benefit of my brand. I am not going to say or do anything that's going to cause harm to my brand, because I understood how much work I had to put in just to get here. I am far from done. And I'm going to give this last example. America during World War II had allies. Russia, China, and England. They all was allied, right? They were allied because their enemy was Germany, Hitler, you had Italy and Japan. Soon as that war ended, America entered what they call a Cold War with both Russia and China. And even to this day, they're beefing in their own way. See, that's called an ally. Do not be thirsty for allies. An ally is someone, they'll rock with you just on that one thing, or they'll rock with you in that moment, but they ain't really rocking with you. You understand what I'm saying? Look for a comrade. See, England was a comrade. What I mean by that, after the war, England and America remained tight. Here's a perfect example of a comrade. After 9/11, when George Bush went on TV and said that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, and he knew it because he had the receipts. Hello. Anyway, England was right there with him. Tony Blair. Whatever America's going to do, we're right there with them. Get people in your life who's going to really ride with you. Stop having people who don't have your best interests at heart. I hear people complain all the time about people. I don't give people access to my time or energy that's not for me. Don't do that. I want to focus on people who have my best interests at heart. And when you have that type of mindset and energy, I promise you, people who think the same way, you're going to become comrades. So now we're getting to this place in our life where, okay, I've changed my mindset. I've changed my circle, right? I'm learning how to network. I'm focusing on myself as a brand as it relates to the things I want to do. Study to show yourself approved. I remember when I was in Santa Rita, 18 years old, and the OGs in there, they used to be chopping it up. The youngsters come along, oh, well, I think. OG said, no, youngster, I don't want to hear your opinions. When you open your mouth, back that up with 3 sources. And I was like, that's deep. See, a lot of times we will say things and we don't put the work in. We don't even know why it's happening. I remember talking to a brother years ago. He said he didn't have a job. I said, why? He said, because I'm black. Really? So you're saying nobody black got a job? See, there's things that we just blurt out. We're not willing to study. Study yourself. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody got them, and half the time they full of shit. And that's why we get into our feelings, right? I see this a lot on social media. You make a comment, you make a post, here comes somebody with their opinion. I've never understood people who really took time out their day to argue with someone else over their opinion. Like, bruh, I'm not a politician. I didn't call you and ask for money. I'm not gonna argue with you over my opinion. For what? I got better things to do. First of all, I got a life. Don't get caught up in opinions. Everyone have them, and more often than not, what they say about you is really not about you. It's really a reflection of them. So that balance is understanding that. People gonna have their opinions. No matter what they think of me, that's really a reflection of them because they really took the time to sit down with me and have a conversation with me. I promise you, they will have a whole different opinion. Number 2, if we're gonna be about change, so remember, there's 2 forms of violence. The first is what they talk about a lot, community violence, right? That's crime, that's bipping, but the systemic violence, we have to change that. If we're gonna change that, again, we have to be educated on what's happening. This is what I mean. We have to stop saying things as, oh, that's racist. Oh, that's white supremacy. What does that mean? The things that we do here at Boss is very important. We talk about the historical systemic violence. Oakland, California, right here. I tell people this a lot and it blows their mind. Brookfield and Sobrani Park was built exclusively for white people during the war because black people there was forced to live in West Oakland. You see that today, it would blow your mind like, what, this is for white? Yeah. They had these racist housing covenants right here in Oakland. They talk about how liberal and radical Oakland is. No, Oakland as a city has always been racist and conservative. It was the people who had to be radical in order to address these systems. The Black Panther Party for self-defense. Let it not be lost on any one of us who talk about the Panthers. This key thing, it started at Merritt College. Dr. Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale were college students. They studied the law. They knew that, hey, I can carry my firearm as long as I don't have it pointed at anybody. Study these things. You have to know what you're talking about. Don't just have an opinion. Cite these sources because they're on the record, and that changes the whole game. They can't argue with facts, but we can always argue about opinions. Study past and present movements. There's this tendency to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to. We can always study and learn what worked, and we can also learn from what didn't work. A lot of times folks want to do things, and they feel like, oh, this ain't never been done. We're doing something different. No, you're not. When you say that, you're only proving that you have not done the work. Study what works. That includes movements, that includes people. Dr. Huey P. Newton made this comment I live by. Power is the ability to define phenomena and make it act in a desired manner. I'll say this again. Power is the ability to define phenomena. Phenomena is things that are happening. If you're talking about something that's happening to you, then you have to understand what your power is to define it. Don't just say, because I'm black. What does that mean? You have to tailor that and make it unique to you, in addition to the systemic nature of it. And once you're able to define it in a manner that no one can refute, then you can make it act in a manner that's going to produce the results. Again, for example, if I say I didn't get this because I'm black, what is the solution to that? Real talk. There isn't. We got to go deeper. What specific policy? What specific rule? What specific law? What specific budgetary decision? Why are we spending so much money on the police department and we got potholes in our street? We have to make it make sense. When we're able to make it make sense, that becomes a form of power. And as Frederick Douglass says, power only concedes the power. And it definitely ain't gonna do it without a demand. Finally, transformation, because that's what we're talking about. How do we become transformed? Those who ain't against me is with me. What does that mean? Again, a lot of times we adopt attitudes, right? We utilize stereotypes. We would think, oh, this person right here ain't gonna give me a chance or opportunity. I promise you, I've been blessed in my life. I had people look out for me in so many ways. And a lot of times that's because I did not close that door. What I mean by that, here's an example. I remember years ago, I went to a job interview. It was me and 5 white guys in there. So when they said my name, and I love my name, by the way, John Jones III, it's one of the most Anglo names you can have, right? They think my name is supposed to be Jamal or Rashid or something, right? So I remember when the lady came out, she said, John Jones III, you're next. I stood up. She looked at me like, oh, no. She was looking at the white guys. She said, no, that's me. Okay. When this lady came out the room and said, John Jones III, you next, I stood up. She looked shocked and surprised. Like, not you. I said, yeah, that's me. So I go on there and I'm interviewing with this guy. So as I'm being interviewed by this white guy, he's on his computer and I instinctively knew he was looking up my criminal record. So when he asked me that question, I was real with him. I said, yes, I made some mistakes in my life and I served time. And I've learned from that mistake. And most importantly, why I think you should hire me is because I don't have the ability to go anywhere. Anybody who gives me a chance, who's willing to invest in me, you're gonna get your dividends back tenfold. This guy said something that shocked me. I was not expecting him to even run with that. I just said my piece and I was ready to get up. He said, you know what? He said, I'm gonna give you this job. I thought, what? And he seen the look on my face. He said, you look shocked. He said, you know why I'm gonna give it to you? He said, I believe everything you said and more. He said, as a white guy, I understand the privilege I have. You are black. I understand you don't have the same privileges as me. He said, those 5 white guys out there, I seen their resume. They have far more privilege than you, and they're not even doing what they need to be doing with that privilege. That's why I'm giving you this job. Don't perceive opportunities to be closed based on how people look. You follow what I'm saying? Do not allow people to program us to put people in boxes. You never know who's going to give you an opportunity. You never know who. Transformation. When I say transformation, this is outside the individual. I'm talking about as part of a social network. In order for us to achieve that, we have to also keep in mind about commonality. What does that mean? What do we have in common? Everything in America is designed to divide. That's why they come up with race and gender. Let me be very clear. Those are social constructs. They create systems that's designed around your quote unquote race or your quote unquote gender. First of all, race is not even real. It's only one race, that's the human race. They're acting like, oh, you a tiger, you a lion, you a bear. No, we're all human beings. And if you have a conversation with anybody, despite what their quote unquote race is, you will find out you have more in common. When you ask people, hey, who want a safe place over their head? Who want food on the table? Who want to live in a clean and healthy environment? When we start focusing on what we have in common, then we can build the power through consensus to create change. But if we perpetuate us versus them, that divide and conquer is why we are not where we need to be. Look for what you got in common. Build from there. I love giving this as an example because, again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I love the Montgomery bus boycott as a model. Let's break down what was happening during that time. We're talking about the 1950s in Alabama, the South, the Deep South, the racist Deep South. On the bus, they had a practice. Black people had to sit in the back, white people sit in the front. So you get on and you pay the same amount of money as a black person as this white person did, and you go sit down in the back. Now, guess what happened? If the front of the bus started getting full, then the bus driver will come to you and tell you, as a black person, you got to give your seat up to let this white person sit down. We have all heard about Rosa Parks, and we heard about Dr. King. May they rest in power, may God bless their souls. What I have to say next is no disrespect to them. They were not the key factors in that movement. In fact, there were 6 black women who were arrested on that bus system prior to Rosa. In fact, Rosa Parks, that was staged. And I'm gonna get into why that was staged in a minute. One of those people who was arrested was a 15-year-old black teenager. Her name is Claudette Colvin. I refuse to allow anybody to invoke, again, may she rest in peace, all love. Do not speak about Rosa Parks and leave out Claudette Colvin. Claudette was 15. She was arrested. She was on the original lawsuit. They sued that bus company and the city of Montgomery for their racist practices. But she, as a teenager, became pregnant. And the leaders of that day, they were practicing what we call respectability politics. They didn't think she would be suited as the face of that movement. They thought people would be judging her because she was unmarried and got pregnant as a teenager, that they would not support the movement. That's how Rosa Parks got involved. But here is the important part of all this as well. Keep in mind, at that time, the only jobs that was truly available for black women at that time was working as a maid, a nanny, a cook. Remember, they were living in segregated communities. So to work as a maid or a nanny or a cook, that required black women in particular to ride the bus from the black community to the white community. They didn't just say, hey, everyone don't ride the bus. How am I gonna get to work? I don't know, you figure it out. So that's what we do today. People talk about boycotts, they wanna shut things down. They never talk about how to support the people who are most impacted by that. So what happened? It was black women. They came up with this carpool system. Now, imagine what's happening as you're riding the same vehicle as people you never met before, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days out the week. You are learning the names of each other's kids. You're hearing these shared stories. Oh, my husband Bill came home last night acting a fool. He was drunk. My point is that's called deep relationship building. And that's why that boycott lasted for over a year. Transformation is about building deep and real relationships. It's not about the transactional relationships. What can I get from you? What can I get out of you? We have to be able to build deep relationships. And ultimately, that original lawsuit was successful, and that led to that practice being overturned. Here is a picture of Claudette Colvin. I identify with Claudette because, again, when I began my career as an activist, I had people try to place me into a box. I had people, it's interesting, black man, formerly incarcerated, it's interesting, people will automatically assume I was ignorant or dumb or uneducated. I learned to use that to my advantage. Sometimes if I'm speaking to a room of people who don't know anything about me, first thing I say is I'm formerly incarcerated. I use that as part of my power. Why? Because it's interesting, but this concept is real. It lowers the expectation of what they think they're about to hear. And then when I hit them with this ism, they're like, oh my God, what? You been in jail? You sound like you've been in Stanford. Exactly. Stop judging people by how they look. Stop judging people off their lived experience. Be enough of a human being to have the humility to actually give people an opportunity to demonstrate who they are. You follow what I'm saying? That's why I resonate with Claudette. And even now, I'm well beyond my incarceration moment. People sometimes say, John, you've been out over a decade. Why you still tell people you're formerly incarcerated? Because I do not want to separate myself from my people who are currently experiencing this, as well as those who are coming home now. I am them, they are me. So anytime I get blessed with opportunity to speak, to open that door, to be able to transform how people view our population, They don't look at us just as thugs and convicts, but understand that we are real human beings with real abilities and real capabilities. That in turn leads to real opportunities.